As the turbulent year of 2025 draws to a chaotic close, the entire world stands at a dangerous precipice unlike any before, with wars raging across continents and fragile alliances shifting like loose sand in a desert storm. The headlines scream of rising tensions in the Middle East and global economic turmoil. Yet what if these are not random events but carefully orchestrated movements on a divine chessboard played by unseen hands? Imagine if ancient prophets writing thousands of years ago saw beyond 2025 and fixed their prophetic gaze on 2026, a year that may witness the culmination of visions from the smoking ruins of Damascus to a besieged Jerusalem. From darkened skies to earthquakes that shake the foundations of the earth, 10 biblical prophecies point toward a singular moment in time that Zechariah saw, Matthew recorded, and John witnessed in heavenly scrolls. As we stand on the threshold between the chaos of today and the revelations of tomorrow, one burning question remains for every soul. Are we witnessing the final countdown to the end of the age as we know it? The stage is set, and the players are in position as Zechariah chapter 12 opens with a stunning declaration about Jerusalem's future. A prophecy that sets the stage for everything that follows in the divine timeline. The prophet receives a message directly from the Lord, and what God reveals defies every human expectation about this ancient city's fate, speaking with absolute certainty about a destiny that no political power can alter. In verse 2, the Lord speaks with authority. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Picture a cup filled to the brim with something so potent that anyone trying to drink from it staggers and stumbles, losing their balance and strength in the face of a power they cannot comprehend or control. This is what Jerusalem becomes in God's hands, not weak or vulnerable, but a burden too overwhelming for any nation to handle, transforming into something that causes trembling among those who dare to surround it. The declaration intensifies in verse 3 with even more striking imagery. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Think about trying to lift a massive boulder covered in sharp edges. Anyone attempting to move it doesn't just fail. They get injured in the attempt, finding themselves wounded by their own ambitious efforts. Every nation that tries to relocate Jerusalem, to claim it as their own, or to remove it from its place will find themselves torn apart by the very act of trying to control what God has firmly established. The stone refuses to budge, and instead those who touch it are cut and broken, proving that this is not poetry or metaphor, but a concrete promise of divine protection wrapped in unmistakable and terrifying terms. Jerusalem stands at the center of God's plan for human history, and no coalition of nations, regardless of their military might or political influence, will succeed in destroying or controlling it against His will. The vision reveals something that seems impossible. Every nation on earth turning its attention toward one small city. Not just a regional conflict limited to the Middle East, but a global convergence of hostility. Verse 3 makes the scope crystal clear. Though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it, imagining armies from the north, south, east, and west converging on a single point on the map. Military forces from continents far removed from the ancient lands of Israel. Flying flags representing nations that didn't exist when Zechariah wrote these words. All unite in their shared opposition to this one city. What could possibly make this city so important that the entire world would unite in opposition to it? The prophecy doesn't explain their motivations. It simply states the reality that they will come and they will gather. Verse 2 reveals that this gathering includes a siege not just against Jerusalem itself, but against the surrounding region of Judah as well, encircling the area and cutting off escape routes for the inhabitants. Picture walls of soldiers surrounding walls of stone, military encampments stretching as far as the eye can see, and the thunder of armies preparing for battle, creating a psychological weight of being completely outnumbered. By every military calculation and historical precedent, the outcome seems inevitable. When all nations gather against a single city, that city usually falls because overwhelming force and superior numbers decide the outcome. But this prophecy hints at something different, suggesting that the very fact God describes Jerusalem as a burdensome stone means those who gather against it will not achieve their objective despite their strength. The stage is set for a confrontation unlike anything the world has witnessed, where conventional military wisdom will prove utterly inadequate against a force that transcends human strategy and physical weaponry. The tide turns not through superior military strategy or reinforcements arriving at the last moment, but through direct divine intervention that strikes at the heart of the enemy forces with supernatural power.
The gods have forsaken us.
Verse 4 announces God's battle plan. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah.
We can't hold on.
Consider what happens when panic seizes an army, the chain of command collapses, orders become meaningless, and soldiers can no longer think clearly or execute plans as chaos descends upon their ranks. In ancient warfare, horses represented military power like tanks do today. Now imagine these powerful assets struck with astonishment, unable to function, while their riders descend into absolute madness. Then comes blindness. The horses cannot see where they are going, stumbling and crashing into each other as carefully organized military formations dissolve into total chaos and confusion on the battlefield. This is psychological and physical warfare on a supernatural scale. God doesn't need to send fire from heaven or earthquakes to swallow the armies, though he certainly could if he chose to do so. Instead, he simply removes their ability to function as a fighting force, while promising to open his eyes upon the house of Judah, watching over his people with clear vision and deliberate protection. He guards the defenders with focused attention while their enemies stumble around in madness and darkness, creating a stark contrast between the confusion of the attackers and the divine clarity protecting the city. Verse 5 shows the response of Judah's leaders. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in the Lord of hosts, their God. The political and military leaders recognize something profound. True strength doesn't come from weapons or walls, but exists in the Lord who fights for Jerusalem and empowers its inhabitants. When they see God striking down the enemy forces with supernatural confusion, even the most pragmatic leaders acknowledge that they are witnessing divine power at work, turning ordinary people into warriors. Verse 6 declares, In that day will I make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about. Think about what happens when you touch a flame to dry wood or throw a torch into harvested wheat. The fire doesn't struggle or hesitate. It consumes everything in its path with unstoppable force. These leaders who might have seemed ordinary become like fire moving through kindling, advancing through enemy positions on the right and left, ensuring that Jerusalem remains inhabited in her own place. Jerusalem stays exactly where it has always been, with no relocation or compromise, standing firm despite every attempt to remove or replace its people, anchored by the divine promise of preservation. Verse 8 takes this transformation further. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. Remember who David was, a shepherd boy who killed the giant Goliath with a single stone, and a warrior king who defeated entire armies, a man described as being after God's own heart. Now picture the weakest person in Jerusalem fighting with David's courage, the elderly, the young child, or the injured soldier receiving supernatural empowerment that makes them as mighty as the legendary king. The house of David fights with power that seems almost divine, described as being as God, as the angel of the Lord before them, pouring out supernatural capability precisely when they need it most. The armies surrounding Jerusalem vastly outnumber the defenders with superior weapons and training, but God rewrites the equation entirely, making the weakest into the strongest and the outnumbered into the victorious. Matthew chapter 24 records Jesus speaking to his disciples about signs that will appear before his return, shifting the scene from earthly battles to cosmic disturbances that leave no doubt something is occurring.
Truly the heavens declare his glory.
In verse 29, Jesus describes the sky. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Imagine looking up during the day and watching the sun grow dim, not an eclipse that lasts a few minutes, but a sustained darkening that refuses to lift, causing the source of light to fail. The moon, which reflects the sun's light, goes dark as well. There is no gentle glow in the night sky, and the calendar systems that depend on lunar cycles become meaningless in the darkness. Day and night lose their familiar rhythms as both the sun and moon fail, and then the stars begin to fall, not as a meteor shower, but as fixed points of light tumbling from the heavens. Sailors, farmers, and poets who look to the stars for navigation, seasons, and beauty now watch them fall like fruit shaken from a tree, as the powers of the heavens are shaken to their core. The fundamental structure of the cosmos proves unstable. Everything that seemed permanent and reliable turns temporary and uncertain, as the order of creation itself trembles before the Creator's approaching judgment. Earlier in the same chapter, Jesus prepares his disciples for conflicts that will characterize the period leading up to these cosmic signs, painting a picture of a world gripped by violence.
But the path is narrow.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, he warns, indicating that the constant threat of conflict will become part of daily life alongside the actual fighting. Diplomatic talks break down, military forces mobilize on borders, and the fear of war hangs heavy in the air even before the first shots are fired in anger. Then the wars themselves erupt as nation rises against nation and kingdom against kingdom, expanding from local disputes to global confrontations that engulf entire regions in fire. Yet Jesus instructs his followers, "See that ye be not troubled, for these terrible events are like birth pains, merely the beginning stages of something larger, not the end." Famines follow the warfare as supply chains collapse, and pestilences sweep through populations weakened by hunger, while earthquakes strike diverse places, shaking the ground beneath people's feet. Jesus then identifies a specific sign that marks a critical turning point, the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place. When this violation occurs in the sacred ground, the urgency is absolute. Those in Judea must flee to the mountains without hesitation, abandoning their possessions to save their lives. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, a period of suffering that represents the absolute peak of human anguish in history. Before this, society itself breaks down from within. as false prophets rise to deceive many and iniquity abounds,
Everything they
causing the
promised you
love
was
of
a
many
lie.
to wax cold.
Only I can deliver the truth.
Trust evaporates between neighbors, communities fragment, and people protect their own interests rather than caring for others, as lawlessness dissolves the moral glue of society. Yet, amidst this chaos, the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to hear before the end comes. The prophetic focus then shifts to Ezekiel 38, which identifies a massive threat gathering in the distant north, directed by a leader named Gog of the land of Magog. The Lord positions himself against this northern prince, declaring, "Behold, I am against thee, O Gog," setting the stage for a conflict where God is not neutral. In the latter years, a massive coalition, including Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, joins forces with Gog, assembling a multinational army to invade the mountains of Israel. Like a storm cloud covering the land, they descend with horses and armor, motivated by an evil thought to plunder a people who seem to be dwelling safely without walls. But God declares that when God comes against the land of Israel, my fury shall come up in my face, triggering a great shaking that throws down mountains and crumbles every wall.
Awaits us there.
God turns the invaders' swords against each other in confusion, while pouring out judgment from heaven, pestilence, blood, overflowing rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. This destruction serves a singular purpose. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, proving to the watching world that the Lord is God and he protects what is his. Revelation chapter 8 shifts the scene to a different form of judgment, as 7 angels stand ready with trumpets to sound disasters that will strike the earth in succession. The first angel sounds his trumpet, and hail and fire mingled with blood are cast upon the earth, burning up 1/3 of the trees and consuming all green grass in a horrific mixture of destruction. Then the second angel sounds, and something massive like a great mountain burning with fire is cast into the sea, turning 1/3 of the ocean into thick, dead blood. This cataclysm destroys 1/3 of the living creatures in the sea and wrecks 1/3 of the ships, turning the oceans that once teemed with life into a massive maritime graveyard. The third angel sounds, and a great star named Wormwood falls from heaven, burning like a lamp as it strikes 1/3 of the rivers and fountains of waters. The waters become wormwood, bitter and poisonous, and many men die from drinking them, realizing too late that their essential source of life has transformed into an agent of death. The fourth angel sounds, and a third part of the sun, moon, and stars is smitten, creating a world of perpetual twilight where the day shines not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Yet, amidst this gloom, an angel flying through the midst of heaven cries with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth," warning that the remaining 3 trumpets bring even worse suffering. Isaiah chapter 17 opens with a stark prophecy about one of the oldest cities on earth, declaring, "Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap." The city that has stood for thousands of years as a center of power will cease to exist entirely, its fortifications crumbling and its sovereignty vanishing in a single night of overwhelming trouble. The prophecy warns that at evening tide trouble, and before the morning he is not, indicating a destruction so swift and complete that the threat is annihilated between sunset and sunrise. Revelation chapter 5 takes us to the throne room of God, where a desperate search is made for someone worthy to open the sealed scroll that contains the destiny of the world. John weeps much because no man in heaven nor in earth, Neither under the earth is found worthy to open and read the book, or even to look thereon. But one of the elders says unto him, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof. When John looks, he sees not a lion, but a lamb as it had been slain, standing in the midst of the throne, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, representing complete omnipotence and omniscience. The Lamb takes the scroll, and all of heaven erupts in a new song, declaring, Thou art worthy to take the book, and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain, and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood. Millions of angels join the chorus, shouting with a loud voice, Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power, and riches, and wisdom, and strength, and honor, and glory, and blessing. Every creature in heaven, on earth, under the earth, and in the sea responds, acknowledging the ultimate authority of the one who sits on the throne and the Lamb forever. 2 Timothy chapter 3 opens with Paul warning his young prot Malgimal about the character of the final days, stating with certainty, This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. These times will be characterized by a society where men are lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, and blasphemers, abandoning moral anchors for the worship of ego. People will be disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce-breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, and despisers of those that are good. They will have a form of godliness but deny the power thereof, maintaining religious appearances while rejecting the transformative truth that defines a genuine relationship with the Creator. Joel chapter 2 describes a day of divine judgment where the trumpet sounds in Zion, warning of a day of darkness and gloominess, of clouds and thick darkness spreading upon the mountains. Yet, it promises that afterward, God will pour out his Spirit upon all flesh, sons and daughters shall prophesy, old men shall dream dreams, and young men shall see visions. God will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come.
Turned into blood.
Luke 21 records Jesus speaking of signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Men's hearts will fail them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the very powers of heaven shall be shaken by the events unfolding. But Jesus offers a different perspective for his followers, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up, and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Finally, Revelation 16 describes the ultimate judgments as 7 angels pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth, bringing the timeline to its dramatic conclusion. The first vial brings noisome and grievous sores upon men who have the mark of the beast, while the second turns the sea to the blood of a dead man, killing every living soul within it. The third vial turns rivers to blood. The fourth allows the sun to scorch men with fire, and the fifth plunges the kingdom of the beast into darkness. Yet they gnaw their tongues for pain and repent not. The sixth angel pours out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, drying up its water to prepare the way of the kings of the east, gathering the nations to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. 3 unclean spirits like frogs go forth to the kings of the earth to gather them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, staging the final conflict. The seventh angel pours out his vial into the air, and a great voice out of the temple of heaven declares it is done, followed by an earthquake such as was not since men were upon the earth. Every
Leave your
island
country,
flees
your
away,
people,
the mountains are
and your
not
father's
found,
household,
and great Babylon
to the
comes in
land I will
remembrance
show
before
you.
God, as the prophetic clock strikes its final hour. As 2026 approaches, these ancient words echo with startling relevance. If this video has opened your eyes to the prophetic significance of our times, I encourage you to subscribe and share this message. The clock is ticking, the signs are appearing, and the prophecies are unfolding. Make sure you are ready and call on the name of the Lord while there is still time.